John McMullen, Sports Illustrated, Birds 365 on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. He joins us now on the Sports Bash Live with a look at Eagles camp day 4 and everything that's going. Some interesting storylines are starting to emerge, John. But I think one of the interesting ones, and you tweeted this out on the X platform, which was McKai Beckton. And I just said before you came on, once he gets his feet set in that right guard spot, I'm not sure he's ever given it up. So to you, is McKai Beckton now the favorite at that spot?
Well, I'm not going to go that far because I have to see how it works out with Tyler Steen and how long he's going to be out. And all indications are it's only going to be a couple of days. He managed to make it on the field today after individuals, so he was out there watching a little bit, and that's a good sign that it's not going to be terribly serious. The offensive line wasn't good today. So, I mean, this is the first day the defense got the better of the offense, and a large part of that was because of the pass rush, which was pretty relentless on Jaylen Herz all day. Now, not only didn't you have Tyler Steen, you didn't have Lane Johnson, so that entire right side was missing, and it was McKai Beckton and Fred Johnson. And they weren't the only issues because it was pretty relentless from the get-go, just a good day for the defensive front. But, yeah, I'm not going to say he's just going to be the unquestioned leader in the clubhouse, but, it is a positive sign that they're thinking about him there because, one of the big things about Saturday when Tyler had to leave early, they didn't put Beckton there. They put Darian Kennard there, and I thought that was interesting. But I wrote, you got to wait and see. Maybe they didn't want to move, because they have these practice plans each and every day, and their practice plan on Saturday was Beckton was going to be the backup right tackle. He had been the starting left guard because Landon Dickerson was injured, but he's back. So they have these plans, and Jeff Stoutland may have not wanted to go away from that plan. Turns out that was the case, and today he was the first team right guard, but it wasn't great. I wouldn't spike the football yet.
Well, yeah, and I know, just seeing some of the video, just the size of him, he's just such a big guy to play right guard, and you're like, man, him and Lane Johnson next to each other, if they can figure out a way to get him to learn that technique, that duo over there could be dangerous.
Well, yeah, and there's a big difference when Lane's out there. So Lane had a toe injury, sat out. It's not serious. He's day-to-day, but when he's not out there, it makes it much more difficult. So, McKai Beckton next to Lane Johnson is going to look more impressive than McKai Beckton next to Fred Johnson. And that's what happened today. So, you have to wait and see till everybody's together. That's part of the problem of training camp. You have guys in and out. The Eagles' offense didn't look great today, but Saquan Barkley was out for personal reasons. And it seemed to be a day that they were heavily getting the football to the running backs, and he wasn't involved in that. So, you have to take that with a grain of salt as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the running backs and Saquon Barkley and how he's kind of fitting in, and then what everything looks like behind Barkley, because I think that's an unsettled spot for Philadelphia. If Barkley, who's had some injury issues, we don't want to wish injury, obviously, to him, but how he's kind of fit in, what his role might look like, different from, say, Swift and Sanders before him, and who is that other guy?
Well, Kenny Gainwell's the backup, and that's going to be the case. And, he's very trusted by Nick Sirianni specifically, and I'm sure he's made that clear to Kellen Moore. Will Shipley got some expanded time today because Saquon wasn't there, as I said. He looked good, so that was a positive. Especially looked good as a pass receiver out of the backfield. And then today was the Ty Davis-Price show. He touched it at least 10 times. I lost count. Second, third team reps. He's the 2022 third-round pick of the 49ers. They signed off their practice squad. And he got a ton of work today trying to lock down that fourth running back job. I would say he's certainly the favorite for that if they keep four. they might not even keep 4. But the 3 guys are, and it's pretty, declarative. It's, Barkley 1, Gainwell 2, Shipley 3.
All right, John, you take a look at, I know the storylines on the offensive side of the ball. We'll stay over there. That third wide receiver spot, I think the last time we kind of talked, it seemed like Paris Campbell was kind of pulling away. Has he kind of sealed the deal there yet?
No, I think John Ross, it seems to be in the Eagles coaches' minds, a battle between Paris Campbell and John Ross. And, for those who don't remember, John Ross was a 2017, I believe, top 10 pick, ran a 4.22, which held up as the combine record for years until this year, when Xavier Worthy beat it. So he's very fast. You can see he's very skilled as well. And, he was pretty honest about some of the things that went wrong for him, not only injury-wise in Cincinnati, but also off the field, being in a dark place. So, hopefully he's come out of that and you can see the talent. But it's hard to count on these guys. And the best receiver they've had outside of A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith is Britton Covey, and it doesn't seem they want to give him a chance because he doesn't have really outside versatility. So he's strictly going to be a slot player. Kellen Moore talked about this the other day. BJ and because Devontae are going to move around a lot, like you've seen Devontae Smith in the slot a lot more with Kellen Moore than you have in the past. That means if you're, say, Paris Campbell or John Ross, and you're the slot receiver in 11 personnel, by definition, that means you're going to have to move around when Devontae and AJ move around, and you're going to have to play those other positions. So if they just wanted a flex receiver, a traditional slot receiver, it might be Britton Covey, but they don't want that. So they're looking for something else.
Yeah, that one's going to be interesting and kind of fluid, it sounds like there. What kind of role are we looking at for Grant Calcaterra in that backup tight end spot? Is that going to be something different than we saw the last couple of years?
That might be because, Kellen has a pretty significant history of getting that second tight end involved in the passing game when they play 12 personnel. So, and they started with 12. They started with 12 personnel today. They've done it at least one other day over 11. And so that's 2 tight ends over 3 receivers. And they started that way both in team drills and 7-on-7s. And, yeah, Grant's been the guy. There seems to be, that seems to be his job to lose. And I think the only question from their perspective on Grant, is he going to be able to be serviceable in the blocking aspect of it? Obviously, they're not going to expect him to be George Kittle, but, you got to get in somebody's way occasionally. If you want to play a lot, you got to fight, you got to, even if it's hold him up for a little bit, and that to me was time. That'll be important to see if he can at least be serviceable in that part of the game.
Yeah, some interesting stories on the Eagles offense. I guess at the top of the list, Jaylen Herz. How's Jaylen looking through his first weekend back at practice? Of course, a lot of people talk about, does he have to reprove himself? Is he somebody that, is a question going into year number 3 as the starter?
Well, he was tremendous in the first 3 games.
Actually, I should say year number 4 as the starter. Year number 4 as the starter.
Yeah. First 3 practices, I mean, his completion percentage was absurd. And that's, there's good and bad to that. Obviously, if he's completing a lot of passes, he's completing a lot of passes against the Eagles defense. So you can look at it and depending if you want to be positive or negative, but 85% of his passes, a lot of times the one practice, the only time the ball hit the ground was drops. Every single throw he had was completed, except for the drops. So that's been good because you haven't seen Jaylen have that even at any point in his career where he'd be. I called it a Sam Bradford practice where the accuracy and the old joke is the ball doesn't hit the ground, and it shouldn't a lot in 7-on-7s. Team drills is a little bit different. You haven't seen him have those kind of practices, and he's had them early in this camp. Now, he took a little bit of a step back today for the first time, but that was because of the offensive line issues and the pressure, which was on him almost immediately on a number of occasions. So that's gonna make it difficult for any quarterback, and the Eagles seem to be almost adjusting to it in practice. They probably weren't, but it just happened to be throwing to the running backs again and again and again because there was no time to get the football down the field for the most part.
I was going to say, throw it to the running backs again and again and again. Is that something we might see more of, or is that just out of necessity?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think it's out of necessity. I said that a little bit of tongue in cheek. Typically, you go into practices wanting to work on certain things, and this just happened to be a day. I think they were going to go heavy running back and try to work that into the offense. And it's a shame Saquon missed it from that perspective because, like I said, it wasn't only, they had back-to-back wheel routes to Kenny Gainwell, Will Shipley down the field where they gouged. Those were probably the two biggest plays of the offense. There was a long Jaylen Herz touchdown to Devontae Smith, but should have been blown dead. Milton Williams blew up the play, and for whatever reason, they didn't give him the sack. They should have given him the sack, and the play would have been over. So you take that kind of stuff. But the wheel routes were really effective. Julian Okwara was the flat defender on both of them. And Shipley, not Barkley, because he wasn't there. And then even the second not there. Well, he's never there on the second team. He's never there on the third team. They're playing different guys, and the defense is playing different guys. And they were trying to consistently get the ball to Ty Davis-Price. So to me, that's a clear indication that this was just a day that they were trying to work in the running back passing game to the offense.
All right, John, let's flip over to defense over the week.
He made a great play today, pass breakup, and he showed typical James Bradberry, just read the play, tremendous savvy. And it was pass breakup Kenny Pickett throw to Joseph Nana. But, I was going to like him because he knows how to play. He's in the right spots. He's very smart. And I think, how he's playing with a little fire, because if you give him the option, you might wake up one day and find out on September 6th he's going to play him. And the Eagles probably don't want that, and they're trying to kick the can down the road. There's already been some significant cornerback injuries around the NFL. I know Miami lost, I believe. No, the Rams lost a rookie corner to a torn ACL. The Vikings lost a potential starter to an ACL already. So, you start to look around the league and say, hey, maybe Howie did the right thing, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they've gone the way they've gone with that. But I will say that, and again, the second part that I don't understand, look, every rep that James Bradberry takes away from a younger player you're trying to develop at the safety position. That would be namely Tristan McCullum and McKai Gardner, because Sidney Brown's not healthy yet. But I say that because today, all of a sudden, the second team safeties were not only James Bradberry, and it had been James Bradberry and Tristan McCullum. Today was James Bradberry and Avonte Maddox as the backup safeties, and that kicked McCullum down to the third team with McKai Gardner. And again, you're not getting as many reps, and third team reps are pretty insignificant certainly versus first team, but even second team reps. So you're costing reps to younger players. Now, if he's in your plans, fine, but I don't think anybody believes that. And I should also mention the caveat to why Avonte Maddox was back as a second team safety. because Quinyon Mitchell was the first-team slot for the first time. So things are going well for Quinyon Mitchell. And, I continue to be very, bullish on him being a week one starter against Green Bay.
Yeah, there's good news for people who want to hear about the rookies and their development. What about last year's number one pick, Nolan Smith? There was some buzz about him. All right, is he living up to the buzz?
He had a great day.
Does he have a role? Great day, says Johnny Mac.
Now, he had a great day, but again, context, he's going against Fred Johnson, not Lane. Same surname, big difference. So he was all over Jaylen Herz on a couple of occasions, beating Fred Johnson off the snap. And it was a big day. But, tomorrow the Pats come on for the first time. Luckily for him, I don't think Lane's going to go, but we'll see. Probably going to be cautious. But, once the Pats come on for Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson specifically, that's when those guys really show up and you see the impact they have. It was a great day for Nolan, but understand it wasn't Lane Johnson. It was Fred Johnson.
John, a couple other quickies before we roll out of here on the defensive side of the ball. Has anything cleared up, emerged at linebacker? We all just assume White and Dean, but there are a couple wild cards. Ben Van Sumeren, Zach Baughn's name brought up a lot. Anybody making a dent there?
Well, yeah, it's been rotational craziness at linebacker. That's part of the reasons when we talk about completion percentage and, Jaylen Herz at 85% and overall, Tanner McKee, I forget, was 16 of 19 with third-team reps. Part of the issue is that there's been so much rotation, not only amongst the linebackers, but also the cornerbacks, that, there hasn't been much time to gain any chemistry when it comes to the pass coverage. So hopefully that gets better. It's great to say, hey, they're completing 85% of it, but they're doing it against their defense.
Right.
So that's not a good thing. And part of the reason is linebacker, and they've been, every day. So this was the fourth practice. When they start team drills, the two linebackers have been Devin White and Zach Baugh. But when they start 7-on-7s, which is more of a passing drill, it's typically been Devin White and Nakobe Dean. So Nakobe is getting closer to, I think, re-overtaking Zach Baugh. Remember, he talked to us today. He wasn't officially completely cleared till minicamp when he was finally cleared for contact, coming off the Liz Frank surgery. Now he had the 6 weeks to get in better shape. He's clearly, when he's healthy, and hopefully stays healthy, he's clearly, I still think, the Eagles' best linebacker, and I don't know if that's a good thing, but he's going to be on the field. I'm confident of that, but everybody's gotten first-team reps. Not only Vaughn, but also Ben Van Sumeren and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. has even gotten a few. And the only reason Oren Burks isn't on that list, he got hurt in the first practice. Otherwise, he probably would have gotten some as well. So they're throwing everything at the wall, Vic is, and he's going to try to figure out what the best options are. Ultimately, I think it's going to be Devin White and Nakobe Dean to start, and it seems to be trending that way.
The last guy I want to ask you about is Jaylen Carter. Jeff Diamond over at the 33rd team, a former front office executive with Tennessee, said he's one of the second-year players under the most pressure to perform. And you would say, man, he had a really good year last year, but he did kind of slow down, and now he's the guy. 6 sacks, 33 tackles last year for Jaylen Carter, but no Fletcher Cox next to him. Does Carter, are they building a defense around him? What kind of role is he going to have in the Vic Fangio defense?
Yeah, I mean, he and Jordan Davis and Vic's been pretty honest about that. They're the foundational pieces of this defense, and that's what he's building it on. And he needs them to play a lot and play at a high level. And conditioning has been an issue. That's why the Eagles sort of have been pressing that and doubling down and trying to make sure those two guys specifically, not just those two, but them more than anybody else, are ready to play major snaps. I mean, major snaps. And Jaylen's going to be a great player. It's just a matter of how great. There's some consistency issues. Like, we talked about McKai Beckton. That's where we started this call. He was eating his lunch on the pass rush for a little bit, but every once in a while, McKai would get that big body on him and, be able to push him a little bit. So, there's some technique issues, but I think people forget because he's so talented. Still a very young player. There's still a lot of time to grow and figure those things out. But he's really good. It's just a matter of how good he's going to be.
All right, John McMullen, Birds 365, weekday mornings at 8 on the Jacob Media YouTube channel, at JF McMullen on X. For all the updates on the Eagles, Sports Illustrated, he's got a ton of coverage on the Eagles camp. Day 4 in the book. Pads tomorrow?
Yeah, pads come on tomorrow at 10 a.m., so everybody get excited.
Woo-hoo. All right, baby. We'll be looking forward to that and more with John here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. All right, John. Thanks, buddy.
All right, thanks, Mike.
There's John, and, of course, we'll have more throughout training camp here. And don't forget, you can check out the Eagles Friday night. It's a Friday. Usually they play Thursday night for training camp, but this year their exhibition schedule starts on a Friday night, and you can hear the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. And, of course, you can hear that with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick, your official home for Eagles football.